Why I allocate a budget for every one of my projects starting right now. So let's go. Why I set a budget for all of my projects. And the reason why I do this is because in the past, I had been sort of willy-nilly, not really tracking my expenses, not really tracking what's going on in my business, except for specific things like if I spent ads, how much return on investment did I get? But then I started to do something a little bit different. And so I want to just talk to you, first of all, about why you want to allocate a budget for your projects, and then why I do it. So the first reason why you want to set a budget is because it actually gives you some strategic focus. What I mean by that is that we all need to prioritize our work all the time, right? And there's so much to do always. Right? When you prioritize, you want to make sure that you're prioritizing the most important things first. And so if you are working on a project and you've allocated a budget, the more time that goes by without you launching that project, let's say, the more out of control your budget can get. And so that's why we want to be looking at a budget and then allocating a timeline as well with that budget, because the three pillars for good project management is good quality, on time, and on budget. So we want to make sure that we're doing that. So you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right things that you need to do. So when we go back to the minimum viable product, that's where this comes in, because you want to be able to make sure you get the most important things out there on that project so you can stay within your timeline and stay within your budget, and then use continuous improvement to make improvements on that later on down the road. Because here's the deal, a project is never over until that particular thing is retired, particularly with products like courses, your offers, things like that. You're going to have a life of that particular product. Just think about the iPhone, right? They had a life of the iPhone 1 and then the iPhone 2 and iPhone 3. And as long as that iPhone is around, there's going to be some sort of a project going on that's either making improvements on it or building new technology, new innovation, and managing the bugs. There's all those kinds of things that are going on in the background of a project. And so of that iPhone project and specifically. So the next one is, if you are going to hire a team to do a project, resource optimization is really critical here, because you want to allocate how much time that you're going to need from each one of the people in their expertise. So let's think about if you are doing a project where you're going to hire somebody from Fiverr or Upwork or something like that. You're going to hire a few people to help you implement this project. Look how cool that is if you allocate a budget to it, rather than thinking that you need to allocate budget for an entire year or something like that for a specific person to be on board. Instead, you're going to optimize and utilize that resource for that by allocating a specific budget. You need this many hours or this particular thing to get complete. And so you're going to need to upfront get some estimates on how long it's going to take for somebody to complete that part of the project. So that's one of the things that you want to do, is resource optimization with your budgeting, so that you can just hire piecemealed for a specific project, because nobody wants to have a person sitting around doing nothing waiting for a project to begin. So by hiring by project, you can be more efficient, get things done quicker, and not have everything dependent on you. So planning a budget is one of the best things to do for that. And then the next one is performance management. When you start thinking about a budget and how much money you're spending and how many hours are allocated for that person and budget to pay that person, now you're going to start looking at performance to make sure that they are actually doing the things that you assigned to them and wanted them to do, and they're not off on a tangent somewhere. So you're going to be eyeballing that project and the items within that project much more closely when you set a budget and you're really focused in on how much money you are spending on that and making sure that you stay within your budget. And then the last one is accountability and transparency. So You want to have that accountability going in so that all the pieces that you put in place, not just the people, but all the things that you put in place for that particular project are giving you a return on that investment. So think about a product like a course or something like that. You want it to have a return on that investment. So if you need to, let's say, hire some people to help you, and then maybe even hire a coach, you want to put those expenses within that because you're hiring the coach and those people specifically for that project. But if you have like software or something like that you're already using, a membership site or something like that, you don't need to put that in your project because you're already spending that money for the other projects or the other products and services that you have within that. However, but if you're going to purchase a new membership site because you don't have one yet, that needs to be put in there, that budget allocation for the purchase of that, at least the initial purchase of that during the build out phase. And then every month you're going to be managing those expenses to keep making sure that you're getting that return on investment. So that's the bottom line of all this, is the return on investment. If you put out $5,000, you want to make at least $5,000 back. Hopefully 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, right? And if you're creating a product or something like that can be more passive income, that thing could last you 10 years of your life and be bringing in revenue all along. So you want to make sure that it's always giving you a return on that investment. So one of the things that I use in order to manage the budget on my projects is I create a miniature profit and loss statement. So if you grab my workbook this month, it's all about project budgeting this month. And I have in there the profit and loss statement and how it's determined so you can look at it. It's basically your total revenue minus your cost of goods sold and minus your overhead expenses. And then you can figure out the percentage of the return and everything from that. So I explain that in that book, but you can use that for your overall business and you can use it for your projects too. So you have that little mini P&L for your business that shows you how that particular project and product that is the result of that project is performing. So you can keep optimizing it. So that's the way that you want to start. Really simplified way of managing budget. Managing the budget of your projects is just by using a basic P&L statement. Now, if you're a coach, you're probably not going to have things like cost of goods sold, because cost of goods sold is like a widget. You make a widget for $50 and you sell it for $100, then that's what the cost of goods are. Right? 50% of that is cost of goods sold. But the overhead is where we start having the expenses in software and in hiring people to help us implement things and in hiring a coach or whatever it is that you need to do in order to get that project off the ground. And don't be afraid. You hire a coach that's very specific for the specific things that you're looking for to build in terms of your skill set, or in particular to a project you're trying to complete. If you're trying to get really good at running Facebook ads, or your particular launch or whatever, an event that you're going to be doing or whatever, then hiring somebody who's going to help you understand and maximize your Facebook ads is a very legitimate expense for that particular project. And don't shy away from that, because getting that knowledge quickly from a coach is so much more efficient than trying to learn it the hard way and just watching videos or doing the hunting or reading a book or going to college, right? So it's much faster to learn from the people who are already doing it. So if you have any questions, then I would love it if you put them in the comments here. And all right, so make sure you grab my new workbook. You can find all my workbooks at thescrumshop.com/workbooks. And it is the very first one on there about project budgeting. So you can learn a little bit more about how to manage a budget and what kinds of things you need to be thinking about when you create your budget for a particular project. And then you can start seeing a real ROI that gives you some serious measurements, so you can start that continuous improvement process afterwards and then optimize that project to make the maximum revenue of its potential. I hope that helps you, and thank you very much for coming. I will see you guys in the comments.